So the topic is how AI can be used to cool AI. So first of all, I would like to say when we talk about the AI or AI data centers, especially in that sense, so how it is different from your conventional data. What is changing when we talk about AI data centers with respect to the conventional data centers? So 4 5 points which I think there may be more, but as per my knowledge from the infrastructure point of view, so first is your workload. So I'll just share my screen. Is it visible?
Yes.
Yeah. So first is workload. Earlier, the workload maybe in the range of 3 kilowatt, 5 kilowatt, 10 kilowatt of the workload. When it's AI, so your workload may be in the range of 60, 70, 80 kilowatts. Mostly GPUs, as rightly mentioned in previous speakers. So for parallel computing, parallel works, along with your CPUs, some hardware, some storage and networking devices. Second thing is how what is the application. So initially, right now we are using the AI data centers mostly for your training models or your inference applications. So when we talk about the training models, we required a huge cluster of AI, which is maybe 120, 140 kilowatt of the rack. So that was the past years, but the trend is now shifting to inference workload, where we do not require the large cluster of workloads. Maybe we require some lesser workload or some less power density workload, but defined for suitable applications. Third thing, we talk about cooling, which is our the topic. So as we know how earlier we used to have air cooling, which is dominant. So when we go talk about the AI data centers, your power densities is increases too much, which is not possible for air to cool. So that is why we have to shift to liquid cooling. So if you see the cooling density, how we have come forward. So if you see, uh, if anything, your rack load comes around 50 kilowatt, more than 50 kilowatt, you have to shift to liquid cooling because of the air limitations. So this is how the cooling density progressions from past to till now. So when we talk about the liquid cooling, so what is happening right now? So as you see, air cooling, it was predominant, but now it's liquid cooling. In liquid cooling, we have two types: direct to chip and immersion cooling. So means uh, so as of now, based on the workload or based on the type of applications, direct to chip cooling is a more dominant, but immersion cooling has also some requirements, some application specific requirement. Yeah. So when we talk about the cooling, so how we differentiate whether which type of cooling is required. So if you see from clearly, when you have your servers, it has a fan, then you have to go with either direct to chip liquid cooling, or you have to go with the air cooled. When your servers do not have fans, then you can go with the immersion cooling. As you know, so in direct to chip liquid cooling, we have this is the layout. I'm just giving you a brief how this works, then we'll come to on the topic. So this is how the layout of the direct to chip liquid cooling. Basically, it has a heat rejected from the server. It is passed through the CDUs. Then from CDUs, it will pass through the outdoor unit, maybe a chiller or your adiabatic dry coolers. So if you see heat captured in, so your two fluid network is required: secondary fluid network and primary fluid network. So secondary fluid network is where your PG25 is flowing into that, and primary fluid network is where your water is passing through. So this is a second type of cooling where you have a immersion cooling where your entire service is dipped into the oil-based coolant. So this is why it has no air part in it, because it has to completely dip into solution, which is oil type solutions. Yeah. So basically, as I so immersion cooling, you have a oil based coolant, and for direct to chip, it is a water based coolant. So this is the basic difference. So what is PG basically, which is, so it has a, if you can see, it's a 75% water plus glycol plus some additives. Why additives? So because it has to deal with because the fluid has to go with multiple components, whether metal, plastic, all types of component it has to pass through. So there may be a possibility that some of the contamination will come into the fluid, or some corrosion. So due to all these things, we use PG25 from you can say from the chemistry or from the thermal property point of view also. uh, uh, your your fluid should have high thermal conductivity, high heat capacity, and it should be thermal and chemical stable when it is in operation. Cost wise, it has to be less in cost. So this is the basic difference between water versus PG. So if you see, this is the basic difference between air, water, and PG25. So this slide show why we have to move to water. Just see on the last thing, for a 50 watt kilowatt, 50 kilowatt rack, we require this much of air quantity to be supplied, and for this much air quantity, huge kind of say your system is required for airflow into that. But when it comes to water, it's just a 1.2 liter per second. So come to our topic, which is cooling fluid. So cooling fluid is not just a consumable anymore, because see, we have to understand why. Because cooling fluid is something which is very important. Okay, so for any you can say a reliable operations, or for stable operations. So as I told you earlier, also means. The fluid has to go with it has to be free from all the contaminations, because over the time it has to flow into a closed loop. It will come in contact with all the metal parts, whatever the your plastics, everything. It has to be coming into all that contact. Okay, so it should be free from contamination. Over the time, what happened, your glycol concentration is depleting, that we need to be take care. And your microbial growth is also uh, uh, possibilities that microbes growth can take place. So these are the things which we have to keep in check all the time for smooth operations. So what we have is a fluid monitoring sensors, because see, fluid is a if fluid is at the at defined level, or whatever the fluid monitor parameters should be at the whatever the level is defined as per the standards, it should be in that level. If any deviation happens, let's say whether in pH or glycol concentration or conductivity, anything, so it will impact the operation. And this impact is so much big that it can have a effect on your downtime, your financial. It will impact everything. So that is why your fluid monitoring is very important when we talk about the AI data centers. So what we do is, so with the help of our sensors, what is the means present way of monitoring these things? So we do lab, we do a sample testing quarterly basis or 6 monthly basis. Okay, so for that, what we do is what can we do is we can have a inline fluid monitoring system where it is installed either at your your secondary headers, secondary return and supply headers, or you can have it near to your CDUs, so you can take control of all the parameters which is critical for your fluid, your pH, your inhibitors, so everything. So how we can do is we with the help of we take all the parameters which is required, uh, which are very critical. Then we have to, with the help of our AIML AIML models, we can predict what is happening on that food. Means, so it will give you a right time or right place guidance on how to do about the fluid management, when to change fluid, or how to do some rectification, whether fluid is of the set quality or not. So this is where I feel we can use AI intelligence in detecting fluid behaviors before any downtime happens. So apart from this, as I told, fluid is not just a consumable; it's a very critical component. So whether it's design, how, or it's compatibility, or it's your filling, or flushing. So everything is very critical when we talk about the liquid cooling management. So this is where we can help data centers about end-to-end liquid cooling services. It's not about giving fluid; it's about the complete fluid life cycle management. Yeah. Thank you. This is from my side.